It was a quiet evening in Spring Hill, Tennessee, when Sarah Carter received a text that would change her life forever. For 2 long years, she had been living in the shadow of an unbearable loss. Her daughter, Emily, had vanished without a trace on her way home from school. No witnesses, no leads, just an empty backpack found near a creek miles from their home. Sarah's world had crumbled. She spent her days glued to her phone, clinging to the hope that Emily might reach out somehow. But every passing day felt like another brick in the wall of despair. The police had long stopped investigating, and even friends urged her to move on. But how could she? That night, as Sarah prepared for yet another sleepless evening, her phone buzzed. The screen lit up with a notification from an unknown number. She froze. The message read, "Mom, help me. They're coming." Sarah's heart raced. It was Emily's number. She recognized it immediately, though it had been disconnected months after her disappearance. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "Emily?" into the empty room. A second message arrived. "I can't talk. Follow the creek trail." Shaking, Sarah called the police, but their response was cold and dismissive. They insisted the texts were likely a cruel prank. But Sarah couldn't ignore the maternal instinct roaring in her chest. Against all logic, she grabbed a flashlight, pulled on her coat, and drove to the trail. As she followed the dark, winding path along the creek, her phone buzzed again. A photo of a tree with a heart carved into it appeared. Beneath it, Emily had written, "Find this." Sarah's breath hitched. She knew the tree. It was a spot Emily had loved as a child. At the base of the tree, Sarah found a small box buried under loose soil. Inside was Emily's bracelet, one she had been wearing the day she disappeared. It was real. The messages weren't a prank. Something was guiding her. The next morning, Sarah met with a private investigator, but even he seemed skeptical. Frustrated, she decided to decode the messages herself. More texts followed, each one stranger than the last. Coordinates, cryptic symbols, and fragments of sentences that seemed to make no sense. One message led her to an abandoned motel on the edge of town. There, she found a torn page from a notebook with Emily's handwriting. The words chilled her. "They watch everything. Trust no one." Just as Sarah was about to leave, she noticed a figure watching her from across the parking lot. It was a man in a dark hoodie. Before she could react, he disappeared into the shadows. Terrified, but determined, Sarah pressed on. The texts intensified, leading her deeper into danger. She visited derelict buildings, confronted suspicious strangers, and even broke into a locked shed in the woods, where she found a map marked with red circles. Each circle corresponded to missing children cases, including Emily's. The final text came late one night. "Come alone. Warehouse 14, midnight." Against her better judgment, Sarah went. She found herself in a sprawling, decrepit warehouse. The air was thick with the smell of rust and oil. Her flashlight flickered as she ventured inside, following faint sounds of whispers. In the far corner, she found a trapdoor leading to an underground bunker. Her hands shook as she descended into the darkness. What she found stole her breath. A small group of frightened, malnourished girls huddled in the corner, their wrists bound with zip ties. Among them was Emily. Sarah rushed to her daughter, who was too weak to speak, but clung to her mother as though she would never let go. Tears streamed down Sarah's face as she whispered, "I found you. I'm here." Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed above. The traffickers had returned. Panicking, Sarah hid with the girls in a narrow crawl space. The minutes felt like hours as the men searched the bunker, their angry voices growing closer. Just when it seemed they would be discovered, a loud crash distracted a team of police and federal agents stormed the building. It turned out that the private investigator had secretly tipped off the authorities. The traffickers were arrested, and the bunker was exposed as part of a nationwide trafficking ring. Emily and the other girls were taken to the hospital, where they began their long journey to recovery. Sarah's story didn't end there. While Emily was home, the scars of her trauma remained. Sarah, too, bore the weight of the ordeal. But together, they began to rebuild their lives. The final moments of the video show Sarah speaking to a support group for families of missing children. Her voice trembles with emotion as she says, "Never stop searching. Even when the world tells you to give up, keep fighting. Love is stronger than fear." How far would you go to save someone you love?